Welcome to the Dream Journal. From the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, the Dream Journal is a weekly show where we explore the power of nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with listeners like you.
In the house behind, the life you find is something understood. So there's
A dream can be meaningful even if you don't know what it means. Today's music is called Cenotaph. Thank you to Rick Kleffel. Black dreams matter. Yes, they do. Our guest, Sahlah Dubel of Divine by Design, will be talking about BIPOC-centered dreamwork, why it matters, and why it's been neglected for so long, and what we can do to change that. I'm your host, Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. We're also a weekly podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review. It helps tip the algorithm in our favor. Dreamers unite. But really, the most important thing about this show is to have you talking to your friends about dreams. And, you may not realize how interested your friends are in talking about dreams. And yet there's incredible value there. And maybe they didn't know that you're interested. You could tell them about this podcast. You can find the archives at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all those places. And also at our host page, ksqd.org/the-dream-journal. I'd like to say hello to Sahlah. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Hi, Catherine. Thank you for having me. It's really good to connect.
Good. So let me read a little introduction here. Sahlah's been on the show a few times, and I feel like you're a friend because we've had these amazing conversations on the show, and a little bit off the show, but mostly we seem to talk on the show. and it's fabulous. You're one of my favorite guests, for sure. So Sahlah Dubel...
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So Sahlah Dubel embraces a holistic approach to dream exploration that acknowledges and respects the unique experiences and cultural backgrounds of BIPOC dreamers. Sahlah is the president of Divine by Design, a team of experienced dream practitioners who specialize in addressing the specific dream-related challenges faced by marginalized communities. And her program, Divine by Design, is at that webpage, divinebydesign.org. And I'm just going to jump right into what these marginalized communities, and maybe just go ahead and define BIPOC. You think people mostly know what that means by now, but let's go ahead and define that term and the focus of Divine. I would hope, but let's not assume.
So BIPOC, Black Indigenous People of Color.
Yep.
So it depends on how you define yourself. We prefer BIPOC as a more inclusive term. And Divine by Design is doing a lot of work right now. Our focus is BIPOC dream culture. We're particularly focused in urban communities. And we're working on projects and lots of movement in the Baltimore area. But what we are finding, what we're moving through, are absolutely relevant to other places and other people that are having the same type of experience. So,
right, interesting to have that urban focus, because I think there's still this vision of this country as rural. That there's a lot of. I mean, I guess we're well past the time when 60% of the population were working on farms. But there's still this sort of a sense that that's a pretty common experience for Americans. And yet urban is something that that has become a dominant experience for people in this country. And growing up in Baltimore, as you do, I understand you don't live in Baltimore now, but you still work in Baltimore and do the your Divine by Design work there. You do in-person work there and do also online. Is that right?
Yeah, we do virtual work, but we have been, just by default of us leaning into BIPOC dreams and dreams for people of color, has led to us showing up in person and just having some amazing experiences firsthand with the community.
Right.
And it struck me, I was wondering the best context to place our conversation.
Yeah.
And kind of in the title, it struck me that we could spend this whole discussion talking about Black Dreams Matter and how that title came up and why.
Yep.
Why to lean like that, knowing that there are some definite energetics tied to that phraseology. But I'm doing it purposefully. I'm doing it intentionally because that's the type of energy that we need to move in order to have the real effect and have the real change that we say that we're hoping to see.
So how would you like to frame this? What is the most important thing to start with right now, Sahlah?
Okay, so I'm gonna start with dreams.
Yeah, okay.
Because
you got me. That works
place,
for me.
Where I'm coming from. So I'm gonna start with dreams.
Yes.
I'm gonna start. Let me start from the place. So, my birthday just passed this summer. I'm a summer baby.
Aww.
And for my birthday gift, I had an immersive retreat for myself, without my children, without my wonderful husband with me. I had some time for myself. I decided, I went away and I had a lot of time to reflect and dive deep. And in particular, there have been a lot of physical energies that have been showing up in my body. I'm in my 40s now. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm slowing down. I have to start taking things a little bit at a time. But I've been having a lot of particular pain in very specific places in my body. And there was one place in particular that when I went to this retreat, I was like, I'm going to address this space. I call it my womb. The wound in my womb.
Okay.
Its location in my body, the pain that I feel in my body, is not necessarily in the space where I carried my children, but I felt it most in my body when I was pregnant, and I feel it most when I am breathing deeply or heavily. Had been finding more often that I was having a lot more pain in my body in that space, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to take time and center myself, my work. This isn't going to be about any broader campaign. I need to center Sahlah and what she needs and what she needs to do. And a dream came to me, and I'm going to share it because it was it really, I think, was the start. I didn't realize that it was really what started me on the pathway of where I am now. But it was around, so like a dream worker, I had a physical condition or ailment that came up in addition to, of course, seeking help, medically. I, of course, turned to the dream space and did incubations and really focused in on that. And a dream came up that I want to share, if that's okay.
Please.
It's a quick dream.
Oh, no, this is what we're here for.
And, okay.
Yeah, just take your
so
time.
It's called,
no hurry.
A transformation.
Yeah.
Okay. It's so very easy to stop, especially when you feel the weight of the world suffocating you. Easier still to sink into the abyss, the darkness, where the cold and numb gifts can cradle you against their bosom. Claw thy way to the light, scream my lungs. My wings seek the ready sand at the bottom. Sink or float or swim? I realize now that all three are ill-fitted options for me. Breathe the water. Madness, I think at first, until I feel the gentle caress of lips upon my ribs, around my womb space. I feel a tongue strike out slow and deliberate, as the chill of the oceans is replaced by the molten fire of touch. And in its wake, I feel searing pain as the folds of my skin give way, as the first gulps of seawater enter my lungs. I feel the accompanying pull through my lungs and out my sides, right where the tongues licked my flesh, right where my new gills have sprouted. Breathe the water indeed. So that's the dream.
Wow.
that's the dream.
That's jaw-dropping.
And
that's
throughout
beautiful. Beautiful. It's like poetic. And I'm right there with you. I'm feeling the gills in my body too. Wow. Whew.
Yeah, thank you. So with that dream centering my retreat experience, I spent as much time as I can at that retreat and throughout the rest of the summer finding water, finding ways to get in water. And the more time I spent in the water, the more time I spent noticing how I breathe, I don't breathe, and where it showed up in my body. And where I landed with, okay, I'm just gonna have to work on my breath in order to center what's happening in my body and where I'm feeling things. I noticed too is the more work I did on my body and the more work I did on my breath, the more dreams started to align with ancestral experiences. And at first, I started paying attention to what my immediate responses have been. When some dreams come up and they involve family members or ancestral energies that can be a bit difficult, I used to tend to quickly eat or consume something to ground myself. I almost always felt it in my gut. I almost always felt it in my chest. And I'm just like, oh, no, I have to almost mindlessly trying to anchor myself. And where I landed moving through my meditations with that was the realization. I had a really interesting conversation with spirit when I went through a long period of meditations, and I was met with the beautiful, I call it the beautiful ultimatum, because it was given to me so lovingly.
The beautiful ultimatum, is that what you said?
Ultimatum.
Okay.
The beautiful ultimatum. And it was two facts. I can choose to not to just, when these feelings come up, to just kind of consume, do whatever I have to, eat whatever I have to, drink whatever I have to kind of not engage with it and to ground myself like where I am, and not because I have things to do and places to go and bills to pay and all of those things that I really need to take care of, which is fine. Spirit has absolutely no problem with that, with the one exception that should I choose that pathway, it will lead to me leaving this plane earlier than I might think. Earlier than, and which is fine. It could be that that's just what needs to happen. In which case, if that happened, the conversations and the work that I need to do for myself would just continue in the next life, in the next iteration, which might be hundreds of years from now, but that doesn't matter because time is a corporeal concept. It doesn't really exist in dream space and in other places, right?
Right.
Or I can choose to pay attention and address what shows up in my body and allow myself to show up authentically, even when that may be uncomfortable to myself and to others around me. And then work through that, to work through the uncomfortable piece of it. It's one of the reasons why when I was sending potential topics to talk about Black Dreams Matter come up, and one of the truths that has begun to manifest itself with the more work that we do with communities of color in their dreaming. Because what we are inevitably hit with sometimes in the dream work field and from other dream workers is the idea that you don't really want to lean into all dreams matter, right?
Yeah,
All dreams
right.
do matter. It's not just Black dreams or the dreams of BIPOC individuals. You can't say that. That's being too exclusive. And I always have to I'm like, okay, that just showed up right in my body, in my womb space. So pay attention to where it hit.
Right.
This is that.
Well, I love the parallels.
Show up authentic.
I love the parallels between this phrase you've come up with, Black Dreams Matter, and the phrase Black Lives Matter, because of course all lives matter, but there's a way that Black lives have not been respected as much as other lives. And so similarly with that phrase Black Dreams Matter, that there's been a way that the dreams of BIPOC people have not been as respected and listened to as others.
That's absolutely true, Catherine, and that's part of it. What I see moving through the field, or as I'm moving through the field, is to check the box of inclusion. And so things happening like study populations suddenly have more people of color included in them, or survey responses have the box checked for more box that are more than just white body individuals. And so it's like, oh, it's inclusive now. It's capturing all of that. But what I'm saying is that because not just the dreamwork field, but because systemic racism and systemic marginalization has been a historically systemic undertaking, that across fields, the way in which the dreams of people of color, the way in which our dreams manifest, the load that comes from them, the ancestral element that may be more present and more traumatic in nature than in other people who don't identify as people of color, may lend itself to a unique paradigm, something that we haven't seen before. And we need to be intentional about not just, this is not just about collecting dreams from people of color. It is not just about enriching our databases so that we can check the inclusivity box.
Right.
It is about what dreams represent for these communities, for these people. It's about acknowledging that historic trauma and complex trauma that may manifest in the dream state and land in the body may not move in the same way, may not even be responsive to the same type of pathways that are held up as this is how we address this when this rises in the dream field. It's intentionally centering the experiences of these communities, and then really kind of taking a back seat and understanding that what communities may need in terms of healing may look different than what you anticipate it might. As a healer, as a dream worker, as a therapist, as a counselor, whichever modality you've been called to move through. And I say that because that energetic of individualism, which is so very popular in our society, is a very important one. But it's as I'm moving through engaging with communities and talking through that experience, I'm realizing that the more, even on a personal level, the more individual work that I do for myself, for Sahlah Bilquis, just for me, by default, when I start centering my body and start feeling healthier in my dream shift, there's almost always an element of historical ancestral healing that plays itself out in me, in my body, that ties itself and lends itself to social change and social action. because I can't show up authentically in my body as myself when there's not safe spaces for me to do so. When there's not that there's not it's not honored in the same way. When it's not safe to do so. And I think that we need to be intentional and targeted about communities of color and what we're experiencing, because the omission of our experiences was targeted. It was very purposeful.
Yes, it was.
It was on purpose.
Yep.
Part of systems that currently exist. So we really need to center that, and it's a difficult place. I understand that it can be a difficult place to be in for white-bodied individuals who may not see where they are in that narrative.
Right.
And sometimes a knee-jerk reaction is to say all dreams matter, all things matter, so that you can have yourself seen in the narrative. But it may be that the role, your energetic in that landscape is not one in which you yourself are being centered. It may be that what could be helpful to center instead are things like allyship, things like listening. There's been plenty of times, and I can give an example where let me switch that perspective. There have been times when I have gone to events and celebrations for First Nations people. And I know that my role is not to look for the mic. I'm literally there to be quiet, to sit. Like, what do you need? I'm not even, you don't even need anything. Sometimes what you need from me is to be quiet or to go or to just,
right.
Like this. Okay. But I think that when we get into that the quickest pathway to not having to look at some of our own personal biases or prejudices is to just kind of blanket it with that was in the past, that was historical, this is now, the box has been checked. Can we please have equity and inclusion for all by just saying that it's there and have you stop on that one group or that one narrative? Because by doing that, you actually are promoting racism or, and I'm like, that's cute, but no, that's not what that is.
Right.
That is.
Oh, these are a lot of new ideas for me, Sahlah. I'm really soaking it up here. This is really, really amazing. It reminds me of this kind of thing that happens in personal growth circles sometimes is people will say, this is a safe space. Well, is it? I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. You can't make a space safe by saying
Can we talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, please go wherever you want to go. This is I'm listening here.
Yes. Okay. So let me tell you, it engage. Okay. Okay. Dreams. Let me do this. Dreams in the communities of colors that we've engaged have been an extremely sacred element, an extremely sacred undertaking. Sometimes when there's loss of family through violence, sometimes when there's disasters, when there's things that happen throughout the community, there's a ripple effect in dreaming. And dreaming, it can be a very powerful tool in communication for ancestors, for collective healing, especially in communities that are experiencing systemic marginalization paired with complex traumas, paired with historical trauma, right?
Yep.
So when you go into the community and you say, this is a safe space, we're going to talk about dreams, suspicion is you're met with, because it's not like some of these communities haven't heard that jive talk before. It's you're safe here, it's okay here, we'll take care of you here. It's fine. We're going to talk about this really sacred thing that ties to some very foundational elements of your identity and your health and your spiritual and emotional well-being. And we're just going to open it up and say that this is a safe space. Space is made safe through action and time and trust that comes from that.
Can I just say that again? Space is made sense. I'm sorry, I have to say it one more time. Space is made safe through action and time. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, yes. And the trust that comes from that interaction. The communities that we work with, right? They have experienced instances, especially around the pandemic, and around health services, in which their needs have not been centered, or their experiences have not been centered, in which their pathways haven't been centered, which makes sense because the system itself didn't center them when it was being developed.
Yep.
So it looks and feels foreign and strange. You're kind of like trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. And so they're used to that. They're not used to, hey, whatever. There are some things that come up in this space that should not be broadly reproduced and thrown into a database. Not necessarily for the sake of that database, for the sake of that community, period. Because the reason we're engaging with the community and doing the research, the why, is actually for their healing, for our healing, for their and our healing and transformation. It's a reciprocitous experience. And it may be that there are some things that some elements that come out that need to remain in that sacred, protected space, because we do not live in a society that has shown that it can be respectful.
True.
All the times of things which come up. Yep. And so some things do need to be safeguarded. When we talk about that, we typically put it in the box of that Euro-Western approach of confidentiality, or of definitely making sure that we're centering anonymity and other elements like that. But there are layers to thinking about harm reduction. And I don't know if it's something that we've thought about enough, or that we are thinking about enough as dream workers. When we say this is a safe space, I know that we mean to, but we cannot pretend that we are in a society in which everyone is safe and protected in the same way, and if everyone in which there is equity in that way of the experiences that people are having. And so it may take an additional element to how you set up your space to help build that safety. Okay. It may, I can give you another example to this, Catherine. One of the ways in which we paused our study protocol and made a shift was to make sure that we had integrated as a necessary element the pouring of libations. I have been in the research field for a long time. I have yet to come across a paper that says we must pour libations as a part of this project, because we kept seeing it. It's more often than not. And I can share that as a practice in Baltimore communities. That idea of having a small plant that you carry with you.
A plant? Did
water
you say?
That you give to it.
No.
Yeah.
A plant.
Yeah,
Are you just saying?
Like I'm getting very specific. Yes, the pouring of water or libations, and the saying of the names of people you love, or people in the community that you've been connected to, that have supported you, that have uplifted you, that are no longer with us, is something that we see happening that would be integral to creating a safe space if you're going to talk about something as sacred as dreams.
Sahlah, I am riveted. This is a amazing conversation, and I love these what you've discovered about harm reduction, and I'd love to talk more about moving forward. We need to take a short break here, a programmatic break, and I can't wait to hear more. So this is Sahlah Dubel from Divine by Design, and we are talking about Black Dreams Matter. So we are broadcast live from the KSQD studios in Santa Cruz and co-broadcast live in San Jose by KCXU. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You are listening to The Dream Journal. My name is Catherine Bell. I want to welcome our far-flung listeners. We have Santa Cruz, Aptos, San Francisco, Alameda, Oakland, Santa Rosa, and then we also have Ashburn, Virginia, and the Bronx, New York. Thanks so much for being Dream Journal listeners. Next week, we'll welcome Jarette Bouillon. She will be talking about how writing is a helpful way to process difficult experiences. She and I will both be sharing from our personal writing about our own experiences of cultic abuse. You can check out the Dream Journal podcast on Instagram and Facebook by following hashtag The Dream Journal. Okay, here we are at the Dream Journal. Our guest today is Sahlah Dubel. Sahlah is a member of Divine by Design. You can find out about their work at divinebydesign.org. And we have on the phone already Andrusa Lawson. I'm pretty sure that's who it was. My phone person just told me about. And so another member of Divine by Design. Welcome, Andrusa.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Catherine. Hello, sister.
Yes.
I know you.
The core team. Well, there's actually 3 siblings in Divine by Design, and so we're glad to have 2 of the 3 of you. We'll get to see here one of these days. And also, let me just say that
Let's throw that into the universe.
Let me just say, also on the line is Max Deaton here, who's also here in the studio with us.
Hi.
Hey, Max.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey.
Okay, so we're talking about Black Dreams Matter. Where shall we go first? I think let's say Sahlah. What do you want to go do? Or go to Andrusa? What's up?
Andrusa, you called in. I'll let you go first.
Yeah. I just had a realization listening to both of you speak, and also, we'll welcome some expansion on the thought processes of creating safe space through time and action. Mm-hmm. We have been connecting with, following, and listening to Catherine for some time, and I recently, as I was listening to the 2 of you speak, realized how this podcast has started to become a safe space for me. And to speak about dreams with all of the strings that are attached to the trepidation with people of color of sharing their dreams. I realized here, as I was, drinking my cacao, offering up tobacco, chewing on sage, that I was moving through the actions of preparing myself for this sacred space, kind of in a very automatic way, and feeling comfortable enough to call in and to speak to that. I'm curious about more of your thoughts on how this particular platform, for myself, for you, potentially for other people of color or other allies that may be listening, is starting to and has started to become over time a safe space where it felt appropriate to me, not just to listen, but to go through the ritual and the spiritual preparation that I do whenever I'm preparing to work with or speak about or share space with dreams. So that was it was mind blowing to me. It was very heavy in my heart, just realizing how this platform had started to move in my space into that threshold of kind of sacredness, right? That typically we keep for each other as family members. We keep for other members of the BIPOC community as we're working with them. And so I was just wondering if you could expand on that a bit.
Yeah, please, Sahlah. This is very touching. I just have to jump in and say thank you. I'm
making sure that I
starting to feel that this is a safe space. So thank you so much. I strive for that, but I don't expect that.
Yeah. So then let me just give a candid response then, Catherine.
Please do.
I believe it's become a safe space because of the work that you do on a personal level. And I'll tell you why. One of the examples that I gave about that shift from wanting to really look at needing to center the dreams, the experiences of other, when as a white-bodied individual, you may be you're more used to a system in which you yourself has been centered. It requires being able to recognize that it exists, so not acting like it doesn't, and recognize that it actually exists, and then being able to create that space for people of color, for LGBTQ community, for that otherness, right? And to do it in such a way that you don't see it as a loss to yourself. I believe that you do the work in terms of your own personal biases and prejudices, and I see people who don't take time to do that work, because I have my own biases and prejudices because I have to do the work. And sometimes it falls under that umbrella of shadow work, but it's still that work that doesn't always feel comfortable, and going to the places that scare you, and being able to work through that in a way to be like, oh, this is my stuff I need to work through, I need to carry. And it's okay for me to do that, to not have it be something where because what what has happened many times in the past and currently what happens is that if you enter a space that says it's safe and you show up authentically as an other, for me as a Black woman, and it's not really safe, there's consequences. You end up carrying that shadow element, that negative element that you get put on the spotlight. Well, why doesn't everyone matter? Are you being exclusive yourself? What's good? Like, you sure this isn't just you? So that happens a lot. And you go, oh, okay, this wasn't really a safe space. This is really a trick. And really quickly, you can tell, and especially, and it helps over time when you're sitting with people who have done that additional element of working, again, yes, on that individual level, but to understand where you are and how you might need to give space or take space or make space or close space or open space, and to not have it take away from the broader, more comprehensive whole you, that self. It's just not something that you need to shy away from or be ashamed of. And Catherine, every time I see you or I'm in your energetic, I'm like, yeah, okay, Catherine means what she says and says what she means, because she does it, and it's not always a comfortable conversation we're having.
It's all right.
It's
That's okay. A lot of my most important conversations of my life are not comfortable.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, you do the work. It's and sometimes there's people that aren't ready to do that work. They're not ready to make that space. And I've done enough of my work where I'm like, okay, that's, take the time and the space that you need. Just, you can't disrupt my transformation. I'm not going to allow you to. I'm like, that's do that over there. You can do that over there. I'll do this over here. And when you have done that movement and gone through that path, then I'm also, I'm not going to push you away because of it. Then maybe we can talk and have the conversation we couldn't have earlier. I'll let you, Catherine, does any of that resonate for you? Or I don't know.
All of that. I mean, all of that. It just makes me so much bigger. Like you said, it is my work. It's my blind spots, like becoming aware of like I have, personal blind spots, and then I have cultural blind spots, and I have like these deeper and deeper blind spots. It just helps me go deeper. Like your whole amazing dream about breathing underwater. And it's like scary when that rush of cold water comes in, like, oh, is this right? I'm not sure. But trusting something there, and then learning that I can breathe underwater, and, trusting that has been an incredibly powerful, valuable journey for me.
Can I just say one?
And Catherine,
one
that
thing?
Also, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just really quickly, that sensation, Catherine, of like realizing that, wow, I actually can breathe underwater. I can exist underneath the weight of this energy, the weight of this topic, this whole topic that we're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't necessarily, I don't necessarily have to, succumb to it, or to swim as fastly as I can, as fast as I can to the surface to get away from it and back to the oxygen. I can exist in this pressure and hold this space, and it'll be okay. That the realization of that, I think, for white-bodied individuals, dream workers, counselors that are wondering how they are going to wrestle with these topics and hold space for these topics, is the spiritual alignment and mentality that you have to have going into this work with people of color. It's going to be heavy. The water's going to rush into your lungs. Mm-hmm. Don't panic. Don't panic. Stay down here with us for a bit. Mm-hmm. You'll be okay. Mm-hmm. and the transformation will come. To the point where we form those gills. We're breathing through this experience together.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to make space here for Max. He's got something to chime in about.
Yeah, I find I've stumbled through life trying to learn about the world, and I find that I learn a lot better when I shut the fuck up and listen, as opposed to sorry about that, as opposed to telling about what I believe or what I feel. And I have to say that I've recently come into a realization that when people talk to me about stuff, I try to chime in about how I've had experiences that relate to it. I think I've done that with you, Andrews. I've done that with Catherine. I wanted to apologize on record for that. But I am listening.
Thank you, Max. Yes, I agree. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well said. So Sahlah, what's up
and
for
can I just
you?
say,
Yes, please. This is your show. What's
I was just going to say, it's such a beautiful, I am very glad that I shared that dream, because I'm like, oh, we're doing dream work and having the conversation, but isn't that the way? And the alchemistry of dream work, right? Is that that what that dream has taught me and continues to teach me about transformation, that we as humans can get so caught up in it must be A or B or drowning, right? Because we're so used to breathing the one thing. And it may be possible that in allowing the transformation to happen, that where we end up is just a place that we hadn't thought of, that is maybe more fitting to our new skin. Once we shrugged off the things that we don't need, that metaphor can speak to moving through the system that we're currently in, to one in which we actually aren't just saying that we center diversity, equity, and inclusion, that we're implementing and manifesting the changes that will have that be a lasting thing. But it could take the rest. It'll likely take the rest of at least our lives.
Yes.
to get there. But what definitely isn't going to serve at all is to act as if it's a place where we already are, or that we don't have to continue to lean into the transformation. And I see that the pandemic shut down a lot and had a lot of people go to places that them and have that hand the first time with things that change not just you themselves in their lives and how they viewed what could be possible for their futures, for the future of their community.
Sahlah, I'm sorry to hear say that you're breaking up a little bit. Unfortunately, your words are breaking up a little bit. But you were talking about that internet you warned me about. But you're talking about the pandemic and how that really kind of brought a lot of things to a head, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, but it's also wanting to get to a place of where that was in the past, and so we don't have to really think about the things that we had to think about then. Everything has been checked. There's no such thing as racism anymore. Everybody's pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. And please stop talking about this because it doesn't feel good. Really not talk about this and move to the next thing. That's a trick.
Right. The end of affirmative action in colleges. That's highly controversial. But now, right, that's really scary. Like, what? Wait a minute, we're not done talking about this yet.
Yeah. No, we're not, and that's why this topic is Black Dreams Matter, because I am centering the dreams of people of color. I'm going to say that they need to be centered, that our dreams need to be centered, like our experiences need to be centered. Like when we're talking about health, I'm centering our health. It's the only way that we're going to actually manifest what we say we want, which is a world that has more equity, inclusion, and is more diverse. I think we're going to need that if we're going to evolve as a species. The Darwin part of me, the Darwinian in me is like, it doesn't make sense not to push against, to go into the places that scare you a bit. So
that's very dreamlike.
Yeah,
going into those
every now and then.
Places.
Yeah, it's you have to have the courage to center the conversation. And I guess what I would want to do, I know that we're getting close to time, but I wanted to, in thinking about ways in which those who might be listening, who are wondering what might be a way to kind of move the needle forward, is to ask yourself if you have been shying away from having some of the more difficult conversations that are necessary ones to have. And sometimes those are conversations you need to have with yourself. Just say that too. Those are conversations that you might need to have with yourself. But I remember, Kath, I was like, we can call this discussion so many other things besides Black Dreams Matter. But let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it and see what comes of it. Because it's not done often enough. And I do not want to propagate the illusion that there's no more work that needs to be done. Right. That there's no such thing as marginalization, that there's no such thing as racism, and or that it happens but not here, because then it happens somewhere else. We don't know where else, but it's just not here. It's like, okay. No, like let's center it and it'll be okay. It eventually, it may not feel good, but we're not going to go anywhere if we pretend that it doesn't need to be centered, or that we don't need to talk about it, or that it doesn't need to be part of the conversation. And we're still manifesting what it looks like, Catherine. Let me say that too, that I'm not speaking from a place of where and when we get there. This is what communities of color might need in terms of their dream work and their dream experiences, their emotional, spiritual, mental well-being and health. These are what these programs, these things that work the best. It's shifting. We always need to be ready and prepared to respond to the need to grow and to evolve. how it is we're engaging and what it is communities need to be uplifted and to be healthy.
Yeah.
But we can't stand still.
Yep.
We can't. I have been coming from a place where I'm starting to feel like we might be standing a little bit still. Where when I talk about ancestral work, somebody will say, everyone has ancestors. Ancestral work looks the same. And I'm like, actually, it might not. It might not if the ancestral load you're carrying comes from a place of historic trauma and it's manifesting and being echoes of it are being repeated in the complex traumas that you're experiencing today. It's not just your ancestors' weight and experience. It's what you're living and breathing and feeling in your body, and not addressing it means that place of health that you want to get to, you're having trouble getting there because you're only trying to go about it in a way that used to work for people that don't look like you and don't have that same load.
Sahlah Dubel. This is an amazing conversation, and Andrusa Lawson's still on the line. Thank you so much. divinebydesign.org. Do you have, we're over time, but do you have like 20 seconds of offerings from Divine by Design?
Yeah, so please feel free to go to our website. Our primary focus now has been our work with the communities in and around Baltimore, but we are definitely looking at ways in which to put together foundational healing programs and practices. Divine by Design has 4 major core values, the first of which is a value of love that centers emotional, spiritual, and mental well-being. And so our dream work falls under that umbrella of that first foundation, because that is foundational to every other type of health that comes next. And so we are putting together offerings in the coming months that will be available on our website. So please do feel free to go there and to take a look.
Thank you so much. This is a wonderful conversation. Glad to have you on the show, Sahlah. And Andrusa, thanks so much for calling in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me, Catherine.
All right. Bye now. So thank you all for listening. The Dream Journal is produced at the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, and we are live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific at ksqd.org in case you'd like to call in and hear what goes on behind the scenes. Podcast is released on the Monday after the show. It spreads interest in dreaming when you subscribe, rate, and review. Contact me if you'd like to be a guest on the show, to promote a new book, or to tell folks about your dream-related offerings. You can contact me at Catherine@ksqd.org, Katherine. I'd like to thank Rick Kleffel, engineer and music creator, and Eric Nelson for answering the phones. Intro and outro pieces are both by Mood Science. And tomorrow morning when you wake up, take a minute to write down your dream and bring it to the next Dream Journal.